What's up, guys? Welcome to the Saturday show. Of course, on Saturdays over the weekend, I like to go back and take a look at the previous week in Newswave and see what you guys had to say for all the different topics that we talked about. It's a lot of fun. See what you guys had to say and kind of talk about it and respond to it. First, though, I kind of wanted to get into some of the, smaller news that took place yesterday. One, Amazon did not deliver my Octopath Traveler Special Edition, so I don't know. They said it could show up at any time, but I guess I know now when it comes to Amazon Prime, it's not always release day shipping as they tell you it is, especially when they confirm it and then delay it the day of. So there you go. They said it could show up at any time between today and Monday. So yeah, that's great. And everybody is playing this game, but I'm sure everybody will want to tell me all about it on the Spawncast tonight, and I'll just have to listen to them. So, but outside of that, though, we did also kind of get an idea now of Smash Bros. Ultimate, well, it's file size. Now, that's something that we've seen with Nintendo recently, is they've been able to get file sizes pretty small, right? Mario Odyssey is like 5 gigabytes, right? We've seen things like Kirby be like 2 gigabytes. It's great when these file sizes are so small, but there is one game in particular, I was curious if it would actually be a small file size, only because it's only been getting larger with every iteration. That's Smash Brothers. See, with the Wii, that was actually one of the only games I could think of that was a dual layer disc because it was over 7 gigabytes on the Wii. That was a big deal then because the Wii games weren't usually very big. I think Wii Music was a couple hundred megabytes even, things like that. So it was very weird to see that, and some Wiis actually had a hard time even reading that dual layer disc where the laser would just have a hard time. You had to send away Nintendo or get your laser replaced. And then the Wii U version, the one we've had most recently, was over 15 gigabytes, and now we're seeing on Nintendo's shop, their own page on the Japanese Nintendo store, it says 16 gigabytes or more. And this is an interesting thing to see, and I'm going to tell you why. This could be a case where Nintendo themselves will have to use a larger than 16 gigabyte cart. And we don't really see those. If you think about it, third-party developers seem allergic just to 16 gigabyte cards, and now we might see Nintendo have to use one larger than that. I'm not really sure if they have like 24 gigabyte cards or if they have to go straight to 32 gigabyte. It's going to be interesting, or maybe they'll try to compress it underneath of that. That's going to be an interesting thing to see, because if it's 16 gigabytes or more now, it probably will be more. I mean, the Wii U version being, I believe, 15.7 gigabytes, give or take. And this one is obviously going to be much larger in terms of content. That is going to be interesting to see if they actually pull out one of those larger carts, and maybe they figure out cost-cutting measures that third parties can use so that we don't have to keep downloading half the game when we buy it. But guys, with that out of the way, let's get into the week of Newswave. On Monday, we talked about Panic Button's next big port for the Switch, Warframe. A lot of people were surprised to see Warframe announced for the Switch, showing Panic Button continuing to move over bigger games. Rabid Rivas says, honestly, as a Warframe player, I think cross-progression should be in Warframe because in this game there isn't competition between players, and it really doesn't matter if someone is ahead of you. I think the issue that they're running into, which by the way, the developers and producers behind Warframe are looking into it and have expressed interest in doing that and having cross-progression, maybe even cross-play. I think it came down to the updates for each version, because the PC and then the other consoles tend to be different versions a lot of times. Updates go to the PC version before it'll go to the consoles, so it's kind of weird there. I think between consoles shouldn't be an issue, like between Xbox and Switch, I guess, because PlayStation, of course, doesn't want to do that, but between Xbox and Switch, I don't think should be an issue as long as they're all in the same version for the most part. Similar to like what we see with Fortnite, where, well, with Fortnite you go between everything, but I would like to see that with Warframe. However, there's also a very interesting aspect to everyone starting over on the Switch, right? Because then it's pretty much even playing field from the beginning, although some people will have prior knowledge of the game. You're not going to walk in day one. Well, maybe you will. Some people are crazy with it, but you're not going to walk in day one with somebody being max level right next to you with all the good stuff. For the most part, as soon as it launches, everyone's going to be level 1, and you got to kind of work up from there, and that at least is mildly interesting, I think, to a lot of people to kind of be on the even playing field with a game where people can be so far out ahead of you. Tuesday, we talked about WWE 2K19 skipping the Switch after a disastrous port of 2K18, and we went over Nintendo's interest in bringing an average of 20 to 30 games to the eShop every week going forward. C. Doku says, I'm very skeptical of buying any indie games, honestly. I generally only buy them if they're cheap, or I have seen others play specifically on Twitch. Most indie games I see on the eShop are way overpriced and most don't have a demo, so I typically stay away from them. And this is what I mean about the eShop needing an overhaul. So you're talking about it from a completely different angle, as people maybe might impulse buy and feel like they got burned on it. You don't even want to pull the trigger on some of these games because you're just not sure. There's so much stuff I think they could do here with this eShop when it comes to a rating system, a written review system. I mean, you could plug your keyboard into the Switch and type things out. You should have a written review system. You should have absolutely a rating system. That's obvious. A 5-star system should be in place, so we can easily see, okay, this is a 1-star, and then we can even sort the entire eShop by like 5-star down to 1-star, best to worst reviewed ones in terms of ratings, things like that. There's a lot of stuff they can do. They might even be able to have, like you're saying, you watch Twitch, like Microsoft has that with the Xbox One, where you go into the store and you can even see people playing on Twitch from the store. Like, you can, if you want to buy a game and you're not sure, you can literally just go over and you go into like Mixer and you can watch people play. It's kind of a neat idea, and Microsoft has a pretty good store set up for helping you decide if you want a game or not. And I think Nintendo really needs to evaluate their eShop, and if they can give people the most information they can get right then and there on their Switch to decide if it's a game they want. Because as people start feeling more and more burned by potential impulse buys or purchases, they're going to be less inclined to buy the next day or the next week or whatnot. They will, because they're not sure and they're concerned about a game. And I feel like because of that, you're going to have some games that just don't get any sales. You're going to have some indie games just kind of fall off. And the idea right now is that indie games that are good sell well on the Switch. So they need as much as they can to really tell the consumer that this is a good game. It's not a junk mobile game that just got ported because the Switch is hot. Wednesday, we went over a revised Switch version that was showing up in stores in Japan that seemed to stop hackers from running unsigned code on the Switch. It appears Nintendo and Nvidia were able to resolve the issue with software through eye patches, leaving us to wonder what that T214 Mariko chip that was data mined earlier in this year is for. DJ Files says the Mariko thing could be for the new Switch version next year. Knowing Nintendo, they probably won't put that much more power into the console for revision. The thing about that is they can't put too much power in, because this Switch that a lot of people have now purchased, over 20 million we assume at this point, has to be able to play all the same games that this revision would come out and play. Could they do something like with the Xbox One X to the Xbox One? Massive power gap, but they all play the same games, and the difference is things like resolution and frame rate? Yeah, I would say so, but I assume the CPU has to stay mostly the same, and it has to be compatible across the board. Basically, developers are going to have to develop for the lowest common denominator, like they do with the Xbox One with the base model. They're going to have to develop for the weakest version of the Switch. That's just how it is. And then you'll get the benefits of better frame rate and resolution if you use the revised, more powerful version. The Mariko is interesting because we were positive that was for security, and it could still be for security. What they've incorporated recently could still be like just something they could get out on the assembly line right away, because generally assembly line from starting to being on production and actually be in stores can be months. So this actually kind of lines up with what we were seeing. So that other chip could be just an easier way, something that they've already developed. You drop it in and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. So that could still be for that, but it could also be to make the system more powerful, or who knows? That's the interesting thing. We're going to find out really when Switches start to ship with a 5.0. That's the earliest we could possibly see Mariko show up, and that's when a lot of people are going to start really checking to see if there's anything changing there. Thursday, we talked about comments made from Yakuza producer about a possible port to Xbox and Switch. While the producer seemed interested at the concept of an Xbox port, they did not seem to think Switch users would be interested in the series, citing poor sales of Yakuza 1 and 2 HD on the Wii U. Thunderbee says, I'm not interested in Yakuza, but their research team is not the best. There are many, many adults playing the Switch. I always see adults playing it at airports, and I know friends that have it. They should rethink their strategy before making such rash decisions. So the thing about the Switch is it definitely appeals to an older audience, adults that don't get as much time as they'd like in front of their TVs because of kids or just having to do all kinds of stuff throughout the day. The Switch is definitely interesting to them, to where they don't have to sit down in front of a big TV or entertainment center and play games. I think it's still good to do that because it obviously it's a great experience, but I do see why some people might look at the Switch and say, yeah, that's just the system that works right now with the lifestyle that I have. So I do think there are more adults than ever playing a Nintendo system with the Switch. And honestly, Nintendo has put out so many like surveys and polls trying to figure out the current age group of people who are buying the Switch. I want to say this again, buying the Switch, not necessarily playing the Switch, and it seems to be an overwhelming amount of adults, older people, who are at least buying the system. And again, they could be giving that to, you know, kids or buying it for their spouse or whoever. But it does look like it's at least attracting that audience. And there have been other polls that have checked to see, you know, how old are you when you're playing it and everything, because they give you the poll, I think it was like through email on your Nintendo account and everything. And that was still coming back as mostly adults, you know, over 18 basically. It seemed to be between like 18 and 34. It was right in there, was the largest amount. Honestly, based on this channel's demographics, yeah, it seems to be that here too. It's an overwhelming amount of people who are between the ages of 18 and 34. And they also showed 11% female, but after checking the analytics here, it was much less in terms of female here. But hey, I do think the Yakuza producers, that what they were saying didn't make a lot of sense. It seems like they figured the Wii U and the Switch were exactly the same in terms of audience. But honestly, at this point, the Switch is going to probably double the Wii U's audience size, honestly, probably before Christmas at this rate. So it's definitely not the same audience as with the Wii U, only because there's so many more people with the Switch. Friday, we talked about the good reception from reviewers to Octopath Traveler, receiving a score of 84 at the time of this recording. The overall praise for this game points out its old school feel and interesting storyline for the 8 different characters. If anything, this seems to show that even in 2018, there's still a place for a big 2D old school RPG. Nathan says, "Happy Friday, everyone. Have a great day. Octopath Traveler is really fun." You know, Nathan, I'm sure it's really fun, but didn't get it, so I couldn't tell you, although that 3-hour demo was pretty fun. I'd like to be playing it now, but, you know, Amazon decided it wasn't time for me yet. The Epic Dude Robert says, "Octopath is awesome so far. Pick it up, people." Now, I did technically pick it up, I guess. I gave Amazon money, and they just didn't bring it to me yet. So hopefully I can pick it up soon. I don't know. I'll pick it up off of my doorstep whenever they decide that I can have it. Disparate Desperado says, "My copy of Octopath Traveler has an estimated delivery of Monday." See, here's somebody who can empathize with me. Desperado, don't worry. We'll get there. We'll get there together. Monday, it feels far away, right? But if they're not going to bring it to us till then, which probably, my luck, I won't get it till Tuesday, you know, with my luck. We'll get there. We just have to stick together. Everybody else who didn't get it, and it maybe didn't leave the warehouse, and they're like, oh, you'll get it someday. Maybe it's Monday, maybe it's Tuesday. We got to stick together, because together we can... Yeah, it's Amazon. You're on your own. Hey guys, thanks for joining me this Saturday. It was a lot of fun. I like going back through your guys' comments. If you want to help out the channel, make sure you guys subscribe. Hit that like button down below. It really helps out. Dislike it if not. And let me know what you guys think about all the stuff we talked about today. Make sure you tune in tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to have a lot of fun on the Spawncast, and I'll see you guys then.